Hey guys, Dan Heilman back with another video. Today we're going to be talking about all the basics of TradingView. We're going to talk about drawing trend lines and basically setting up a brand new chart. I have a green shirt on today, so it looks like I'm a floating ghost. But anyways, if you enjoy the content, press that like button, press that subscribe button. I am not a financial advisor, but I just want to show you how I do this, exactly how I set up everything for trading and all that. So let's begin. The very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a brand new. So I'm just going to call this beginner chart, and I'm just going to make a brand new chart. I do have the paid version of TradingView, so I get a lot more layouts, but even with the free version, you can do plenty of things in TradingView. I have a link below if you want to download it. It gives you a discount if you want to purchase any of the premium versions, but that's what we're going to do. So here we go, brand new chart. It's going to drop us right in here. Now, this whole right hand side you can set up by just creating different groupings. So all you do here is just hit create new list. You can give them different colors. I have one for crypto, I have one for stocks, and then I have one for different things like the US dollar, mortgage interest rates, all of that stuff. So that's how I set up this right hand side. Okay. Another thing that I do right away is I go into the settings up here in the top right. And what I like to do is I like to first of all, let me go back to an actual chart. I like having candles. So I'll just show you how I set up this background. So this is not how it comes standard. Basically what I did, the only thing I really did is I got rid of some of the things in the canvas. So I basically turned off some of the lines here. You can see background solid, grid lines none. Now it's up to you if you like these or not. I think personally that the horizontal is the only ones that are that useful because it kind of just gives you a line of where everything is, but I think it makes the chart kind of look busy. So you can either take this and you can turn it down so the opacity is really low. If you want to do that, do that. Otherwise, I just turn it off. We'll just leave it with a really low opacity on the trend lines. You can honestly hardly even see it on the video, but that's okay. I turn the watermark off and all of that. Now, in terms of any of this, I do turn off the buy and sell buttons because I'm not using that feature. You can purchase directly through TradingView. You can set buys and sells. All you do is hook up an exchange. I don't have that set up, so I removed that just because it's kind of annoying to see all that. Now, another thing you can do is you can change different things for your symbols. So like if you want a different color, if you want them to be like, kind of see-through, you can do whatever you want. There's a lot of customizing in here, but that's pretty much all that I care too much about. Another thing is if you want volume or not. I'll show you how to do that a different way, but yeah. So there you go. That's setting up the background. All right, so after you set up the background, the next thing I like to do is indicators. Now, there's all sorts of built-in indicators. You can even purchase indicators from different people who have custom ones. You can write your own code to make indicators. So there's a lot of stuff you can do here. The first thing I like to do is I like to have a volume chart. Volume is the first thing. Search volume, you get it right here, and then all you do is you press this little star button on the side and it adds it to your favorites. So then on your favorites, you can just find the stuff that you like. So now that we have volume, I'm just gonna click it and it's gonna put it on the chart, okay? So I think volume is really important. It shows you, it confirms a lot of different patterns like this reverse head and shoulders. You wanna see high volume on the head, so this confirms that. Now, if you think it's a little intrusive, you can click it down here and then you'll see it pop up. Every indicator that you add on here will show in a list here in the top left. You can put this arrow on and off to hide it, and then you hit settings. Now, I personally I don't like the columns. I like the, what do they call it? Bars, lines? I think just line. No, not that. Histogram, that's what I like. I like the histogram. I think it's not quite as intrusive and it doesn't block as much because all I really want to see is just these, the size of these bars and how high they are relative to the rest of them. So that's what we got there. That's what I like personally. So that's the first indicator I put on basically everything. Now, another indicator a lot of people use is RSI. RSI is definitely something that can show you a lot of very basic trading ideas, trading, what's the word I'm looking for? Trading patterns use relative strength index. I guess that's what we'll use it like that. So now another thing is you see how over here you can hit settings. If I have this hidden, it hides it here so you can't click it. So that's just a note just to make sure that you know how that works. If you have to have this list expanded here to be able to see all the settings here, you can change a bunch of different things, colors, whatever you want. You can change the, the band for the upper and lower half. You can drag it by grabbing the bar here and doing whatever you want here. here. If you don't like it on the bottom, you can move it to the top just by pressing this arrow over here in the move pane up. So if you like it on the top, you can do that. Whatever you guys want, you can do it here. I'm going back to the bottom. I like in the bottom. Now, the very base thing is we're talking about trend lines. Now, I like to draw trend lines either. There's a couple different ways to draw trend lines. Like we're looking at Bitcoin right now, and I either go on the daily or the weekly to draw trend lines. So I'll kind of show you what the difference is now here. If I go to weekly, now I'm going to draw trend lines, okay? So what I like to do is I like to go over here and I like to draw these trend lines. Now, I like to add certain things to my favorites. Again, it gives you this bar that you can drag around on your favorites, and I like to set that up. What I like is I like trend, I like ray, I like horizontal line, I like vertical line. I don't use crosshair. I'm going to pull that one off because I don't use that one anymore. Parallel channel is another one I like a lot. I'm a huge fan of parallel channel. I use it all the time. Very basic, but very powerful. Now, in the next list here, I like the fib retracement. I think this is a very useful tool. I'll show you how to set that up in here. We're basically just going to do trend lines and fib retracement, and that's going to be pretty much it for this video, because this is just a very basic setting up the very basics of it. There's a lot of stuff in here that's very complicated, and I don't know that Elliott and all of those things really make that much of a difference. I do like these price range, date range, and long and short positions. If you just want to model some trading, that is my favorite list, okay? So now the very first thing I do is I'm going to do a trend line. Now there's two ways you can do a trend line. We're on the weekly right now. So a lot of people will take the highest candle, the close of the candle. If you don't know how candlesticks work, you have a wick, which is this very thin line. This means that the price was eventually there, but this means the open on a green candle is the bottom. So that means we opened here and it closed here. Now the next candle, you always open where you close, okay? Is at least for Bitcoin. You know, it's not like stocks where there's a close time where you cannot trade and there's like pre-market, post-market. There's none of that in crypto. So for crypto, the candle always starts where the last one finished. So this means it opened here and it closed down here. If the close is below the open, it's a red candle. If the close is above the open, it's a green candle, okay? So all I'm doing here is I'm taking the trend line from the top of the candle, and then we're just gonna try to hit through as many of the top of the candles as possible, not the wick, the top, okay? So that's how we do that. We put a line there. And then we do the same thing for the bottom, okay? So you're trying to find something that fits in here. You can see on the weekly, it's not as obvious. So maybe it's just better to do it on the daily, but let me just show you one other thing here. So I'm gonna hit Control Z, get rid of that. If I were to do a channel instead, I think it works a little bit better with the weekly. So here, I'm going through all of those and I'm gonna drag a channel down to where I think it fits the most, okay? So when I'm dragging down, you could take it down to here. Basically the biggest, and it encapsulates these two right here. I think that would be a good place. And you can see that this middle part of this line is kind of important. You can see a lot of the wicks went in through here, okay? So now if I go back to the daily, you'll see it fits fairly well, but it's not perfect, right? So that's one way to do it. Now, if we want to set everything based on the daily, we can do that as well. So if we want to do everything based on the daily chart, which I think I recommend, a lot of people think the weekly is important, but I think the daily is more important in my opinion. So what I like to do is I like to go from the top of, again, I don't like the wicks. I like to ignore the wicks. It's kind of up to you. So I go through, you can see this line right here goes through a lot of very important points, right? So you could draw it like this, and that is an important trend line, right? Through the daily top of the daily candle. You can see this, you can see a lot of things did interact with this trend line here. So you can draw a lot of trend lines, like a lot of trend lines. So here's one. I think this is probably the most important trend line here. And then if you drag this down, what I like to do is you can see over here, we started in this candle. So if I take this candle pattern all the way down to the bottom of the wick again, I like to drop it right there. So you can drop it right there. And that shows you can see there is a lot of things that happened at this line, but you can also take it down to here and take it down to the bottom of it. So, you know, there's a lot of just user preference in this. There's a lot of different things you can do with trend lines. And then this is the higher time frames, right? If you go down to the hourly trend line, if you're trying to trade, you know, short-term trades, you can see there's a massive trend line that's just been running like this. See what I mean? Look at that trend line. And look at how much the price obeys that trend line. That's why trend lines are so important. I mean, look at this. So if you would have drew just using these couple points here, 1, 2, 3, if you just drew this trend line, you'd see that we've been following it for many, many, many hours. I mean, this is probably days, actually. Yes, this is many days. This is, you know, what is that? Almost a month here. We've been following this trend line out of this bottom breakout. So these trend lines are very important, very, very, very important. Now, I think, personally, I think trend line, I don't really use the RSI too much in trading. It kind of just gives you these overbought, oversold conditions. I don't use it that much. I personally like trend lines and I like Fibonacci more. Now, if we want to do Fibonacci, we can do that as well fairly easy. So if we go to this daily chart here, let's go. We'll do the Fibonacci. Now, I set mine pretty custom, so I'll show you how I do it. But you're going to do this fib retracement, and then you're going to go from the top, and you can go from whatever you want. I like the wicks for Fibonacci, but you could probably do the candle as well. It just gives you slightly different. So if I go from the top of that wick all the way down to, there's a couple different ones you can do, right? So you can say, all right, I think this is probably the most important point. So if I go down to here, this is 39,400. This draws this line for me. Now, I have mine custom, so let me just show you the settings on mine. But you can see this 50% level, for example, there was a lot of resistance there, right? So you can see the very first bottom, low that we made bounced off that 50%. It bounced off the 50% and then went up. Oops, it bounced off the 50% and it went up literally 26% from that 50%. Now, the way I did that is if you hit shift on your keyboard and then you click, you can just add this this little thing to measure the percentage up and down. You can also use what I was talking about, that price range. If you use this price range thing, you can do the same thing, except for it leaves it permanently on your screen. You can see there 26%. I made mine custom and I removed the background color, made it very transparent. I made it white and very light so it doesn't like ruin the aesthetics of your chart. But anyways, you can see there's a lot of different things that happen at these points. Now, and you can do multiple of these Fibonacci sequences. So, okay, that was my first one. Now, the second one, let's go from the top again, and let's go to the bottom of this right here, because this is a very important, you know, thing that happened here, right? So there we go. Now we have another set of trend lines. However, you can see here, we did close on that, and look we even had support here yet again. So you can see how important these Fibonacci levels are, right? So we came down here, we went down to this 0.382, and then we bounced all the way back up. Why didn't shift work? There we go. And we went up 24%, bounced off that, and then hit this 50% level. And look it fully rejected us. We went all the way back, and look we touched the 0.382 again. Look we perfectly touched it. And then we came back up. We had some resistance we didn't have a lot of resistance at this 50%, right? So, and now you're looking at this 50% level, and this is from just the first move. So maybe that move's not as useful anymore. Maybe we're gonna go, we'll take this down to maybe the next bottom in this cycle. So in this cycle, since we've been up here, if we take this all the way down to bottom here, what do we got now, okay? So now we have a 50% here, but look again, there's a lot of resistance in this area. We wicked into there, a lot of resistance. We couldn't even clear above this 50 percentile right here. We went back down, we touched this 50 percentile, we bounced back up, and now we're at a 618, which is another important one. Let me show you my settings that I use on Fibonacci, because I like to personally go through here and I like to make all of them dim. So I leave the 0 and the 1. Actually, I think I'm just going to get rid of these other ones. I don't really care about these above and below the range. I mean, you can leave these if you want. These basically kind of estimate what you could happen after you get out of the range, but I don't find them to be super accurate. I guess some people use them to try to set a take profit in, you know, a new all-time high, but it's kind of up to you. What I like to do is I like to make the 50% very dark. I like that 50% opacity, and then I go through here and I turn the rest of them to 25% just to make them visible. But I like the 0.382 and I like the 0.618. I think these are important. So I leave these at 50% opacity and I put the rest down at 25%. Obviously the 0 and the 1 are also important, so I leave those at 50, but you get the point. I put 25% for all of the ones that are not 0.5, 0, 1, and then I like 50% for the 382 and the 618, because those are quite important. So it kind of just highlights the importance, right? So 618 and 382, you know, there's a lot of resistance in this zone, and you can see that on the chart pretty obviously. So that's how I draw Fibonacci channels. So when I'm trading, I like using Fibonacci I like using the volume to see what's happening here. You can see, and then I like to use some patterns, right? So if I do a brush, you can see here in this pattern that we just printed, we have a shoulder, we have a head, and we have a shoulder. So normally it would be reversed, but this is an inverse head and shoulder, and you always want to confirm high volume on the head. So you can see this pattern usually breaks up to the upside. So if I get that out of there, oh my God, stop. You can cancel those. I have to go back to the clicker. All right, there we go. So you can see usually when we fill this pattern, then we're going to break high from here. You can see this is a very high resistance. I like to change these to orange for high resistance, and I like to change them for yellow, maybe for like a lower term resistance, just so when I'm really zoomed in, I know where I'm at and what's happening. But this is the basics that I use for all of my trading. I think Fibonacci is super important. I think trend lines are super important. RSI can be useful, but if you're trading Bitcoin, I like something even more than RSI. I like the risk metric. So you can use the Bitcoin risk metric. This is the one I use, and I like this one. So there we go. I just added it to the screen. I think this one is personally more useful than RSI in trying to buy and sell. Now I'll show you how I set this risk metric up, at least how I set it up. I like to use 0.8 up here, and I like to use 0.3 down here, okay? So if I hit okay, there you go. And basically what this tells me is that, you know, when's a good time to buy, when's a bad time to buy. This is basically what it's telling me here. So if we zoom out to like a weekly chart, for example, here we go. You can see the different cycles. And basically you can see that when we get near the top, we always get to, oh, maybe I use 0.75 here. Maybe use 0.75. That's a little aggressive because I don't think that we might not hit 0.8 in this next market, because you can see it's kind of diminishing returns. So I actually like 0.75 here. So this gives you buy and sell areas. Maybe I just need to push this down a little bit. Sorry, I'm trying to, maybe I just go back to my other layout because I have the settings on here. Yeah, let's just do that. Let me see what I actually use here. I use 0.7 and 0.2. Okay, so that was my other, I use 0.7 and I use 0.2. That is what I like to use for my risk metric. Now this only works for Bitcoin. So if you're trading Bitcoin, that's fine. If not, use something else. But you can see it kind of emulates the RSI slightly. You can see it looks kind of similar, but this just really highlights those buy and sell zones and makes it kind of easy to know when you're supposed to be buying, when you're supposed to be selling. You can see that it actually did tell us to sell at the top here in March of this year. It did say now's a good time to sell. So if you would have sold there, you could have bought in all the way down at 50K and you'd be sitting pretty happy. Now, as you can see down here, it did not print a buy signal though, because it's telling you to sell some here, and don't sell everything you own, sell portions, etc. But all right, we're dragging this out a little bit too long. I just want basics on here and what we're doing. Oh, for Fibonacci, one last thing. I do like saying extend lines to the right. That's what this is over here. I think that's very important because otherwise it just puts them right on the screen. And it kind of just messes with everything. So I like them all the way to the right, out of the way, while I, you know, scroll around on the screen. So, okay, that's it for the video. It was kind of a lot. Let me know how you guys enjoyed it. If you want anything else, if you wanted to join my Discord, this was actually a suggestion from my Discord. I have created a channel on my Discord for video suggestions. If you want any video covered by me, you know, within reason, I will make a video on it. So I'm talking, this is just going to be basic. They asked me for TA videos are great. Identifying higher time frame support zones and using the entry points and stuff like that. So this was just setting up trend lines for this one. I'm going to go through entry points and stuff like that later, but that was it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like, hit that subscribe button. If you want to join the Discord, come and chat. We got a great meme channel, and you know, we talk about some of our crypto and stock trades and everything, general chat, etc. There's not a lot of us in here, just a couple guys, but if you want to join, feel free to do that. And that's it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, again, press that like, press that subscribe. It really helps me out. Have a great day, everyone. See you guys.